Welcome to Hilarity by Default's weekly BRISCO COUNTY JR review, starring the heartful gin of Bruce Campbell. The chase is on, deep in the heart of Dixie. Episode 11 finds Brisco's on and off again flame, Dixie Cousins, in possession of an incriminating record that marks her as a dangerous target. While Brisco, Bowler, and a conniving David Warner are in pursuit, Socrates begins to suspect there might be a mole at play.
Holy Sark, Comet, Bowler, and Comet team up battling Sark.
Gosh, I won.
We go from Frollo in last week's episode to Sark. We go from Tony J to David Warner. I kept that from you because I wanted to just see that reaction.
Yeah, you know, and I have to tell you, the other reason why you keep that from me is to keep a family man such as me from not worrying about bad things that can happen in the real world. Because I'll tell you what, the last thing this world needs is Judge Frollo teaming up with Sark. Some digital hellfire up in this bitch, and the world would end, Demosthenes.
Well, now, you have mentioned a few times on this show already that you are iffy when it comes to the scrumptious Dixie Cousins. You had some nice things to say about her in the riverboat. I'm kind of curious. I mean, hell, her name is in the title. Not her real name. Myra apparently is her real name, which I think is hilarious as hell. What did you think of Dixie Cousins in this episode before we even delve into the plot?
First of all, I think it's pretty safe to assume that Brisco was not interested in getting deep in the heart of Dixie. Hi-yo! The only real air quotes problem I have with the episode is really not Dixie. Dixie did Dixie stuff. No shock there, right? The only real problem I have with the episode is the start. You know, Brisco and Socrates. I was about to say Brisco and Demosthenes, and I'm like, you're not that awkward with women. Anyways, #player. Anyways, they're walking down the street together, though, Socrates and Brisco, and out of nowhere, a gunfight breaks out, and Dixie's in the stagecoach. Chill. Okay, folks, y'all cats pulled off the damn telegram carrier in the middle of the gunfight, and you get this wrong. But that being said, I'm nitpicking. I feel like there with that didn't do it for me. If you're going to use Dixie, I felt like she was used very well. You know what I appreciated most? I mean, the interaction with Brisco and Dixie was thoroughly predictable. Not to say that that's bad, it just is. I really liked the next big thing technology in this episode with the recording device, but the interaction I enjoyed the most were the ones where Bowler and Dixie were talking to each other. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you really haven't seen too much of that up to this point. I like the fact, and I've praised this in previous episodes, when they use the concept of the coming thing and work it into the actual plot of the episode, rather than it being a side gag, or rather it being the setup for a Deus Ex Machina at the end. The coming thing in this particular case sets off the thing that ignites the plot.
Bingo. I agree with you 100%. It's not a giant tank that they just throw in at the end, or, by the way, jeans, bitch. So,
and the invention of denim. This is one of the very, very few instances where I have nothing bad to say. I got a couple of nitpicks, but I have nothing really bad to say. There are a lot of great things in this episode. I know that you had a bit of an issue with the opening. I didn't have that issue, but I will say this. I will praise the episode by saying that it has great and diverse action set pieces, from the opening ambush to the chase across the moving train to the literal explosion finale. The hijinks at the mission I absolutely loved. Bowler is the only man I've ever seen in the history of mankind that can look freaking badass while dressed like a nun.
Well, that's what I call a bad habit.
No, shut up.
yes. Thoroughly accurate take. Of course, the actor that played Sho'nuff is the only guy good enough to pull that off.
It's probably the best fully action-centric episode to this point, I would say.
I can agree with that assessment. I liked Socrates, the way this worked. I liked how they worked the mole into it, which, by the way, side note, call me what you will, But the mole was pretty damn scrumptious herself, if I may be so bold to say.
One of the funniest scenes in the episode is when they're having relations on top of the desk, and his boss walks in. He's like,
Socrates!
Mr. Cartwright, I can explain.
No need, man. Carry on.
you knew that somebody was going to walk in, and they played it well.
I did not expect old dude to sign off. I got to tell you, that surprised me.
They played it very well. But you mentioned all the characters. I think that this episode, despite the fact that it is as action heavy as it is, they have great character work for the entire principal cast. They finally specifically sit down and address the BRISCO-Dixie relationship. It was about time, logically. I think they actually did it in a very, very sweet way. It's a big expansion on Socrates. You see an edge of badass Socrates in this. He's growing as a character. He has some relationship woes. I'm not a big fan of, I've never been on a date. That was a little far, but whatever.
I mean, I bought it. I bought him. I
really?
bought Socrates, the workaholic. Yes.
But never been on a date ever.
Or I'll even see that and raise you this. You don't like workaholic Socrates? Fine. He strikes me as the kind of dude that would be on a date and not even know it. Like hey Sock, you want to go to the so-and-so with me? Why, sure. She thinks it's a date, but he has no clue.
You know, that's not a bad take. David Warner is a terrific villain. I love it when a villain, when he has a setback, the hero gets away, or the hero wins a minor battle, and then the villain straight up laughs and takes that as a challenge.
Sauce for the goose, my dear boy.
I think David Warner is, up to this point, with the exception of Bly, is probably the best villain we've gotten.
As far as villains who are both smart and capable of physical action, yeah, I'm with you. Sark was definitely top among them.
I mean, who else? I don't even think James Bond villains can get off with the line, "Pass the salt, please," as they're killing a man.
Pass the salt, please.
So money. So. By the way, did anybody else notice that the mole was serving people pheasant at the end, so you could tell precisely who groomed her?
Oh yeah. It was very, very well done. And on top of that, and this also, we're harkening back to the riverboat, which is actually perfect because that was the last big ensemble piece.
Yeah, it's not A, B. It's a showing. It's a showing of how good an episode we think this is. If we're going back to Riverboat, which we've both said is what, like the second best episode we realized so far.
Yes,
right?
yes. And despite the fact that this almost plays out as a sequel to Briscoe and Jalisco, how many times they reference that episode down to the coin, but I love the train torture scene. It harkens back to the Wheel of Misfortune from Riverboat, where he's tied to the track and the train is pulling him and it's going to rip him in half. Once again, Briscoe finds his own way out.
A reasonable
escape, and he ends up getting dragged behind the train Indiana Jones style. I thought that was very, very clever.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly way better than somebody falling out of a refrigerator. But I set the bar low when I say that.
There's very little about this episode I didn't like. I think that from beginning to end, it's fast-paced, it's rip-roaring adventure, and there's so much there to copy your phrase that it's almost easy to overlook how many good character bits there are in this episode. We're talking about these four main players. We have to talk about the fifth main player, which is Comet, and he has a couple moments here and there. The team up with Bowler. And you know what I did like about that? At the beginning of the episode, the very first moment you see Bowler, he's eating an apple, and you see him distinctly put it in his pocket as he gets into the carriage.
Again, glad you pointed that out.
Visual storytelling.
Yes.
It's a small little detail, but it's a great detail. Let's get to the big question, since we're discussing Comet. How many comets would you give in the Heart of Dixie?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to give this beast 5 comets.
God bless America.
I'm all in. It beats the riverboat. Even the ending made sense. And if the biggest problem I have is the fortuitous method of the setup in a 90s Western, I'm good. Oh, Sark, bitch.
It takes its villain seriously, which is something we haven't seen too much on this show. A lot of the Swole brothers in particular, they built up an entire episode of these murderous gang, and the very first thing you see them do is take, the way I edited it in that episode, they take a cheese. I think that this is one of the best villains. I think, like I said before, one of the best action-centric episodes, one of the best ensemble pieces. I'm giving this 5 stars as well.
Told you, bitch.
No, I love this episode. I had going into this, the moment I said earlier, I had nothing bad to say about it. Everything bad is a nitpick. This felt like a sweeps week episode that really just focused a lot on the action. You can clearly tell that this had a higher budget than some of the previous episodes. I mean, just by some of the stunt work they did on the train and all the different locations, and it's a mini movie. So join us every week as we cover all 27 episodes of The Adventures of Brisco County Jr. We invite you to watch along and let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on each episode. And make sure to like and subscribe for more fun from Hilarity by Default.